Hash 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 whispering shadows. The town of Eldergrove had always had an uncanny reputation. Nestled between whispering woods and a winding river, it was the kind of place that felt alive with secrets, haunted by the shadows of its past. The townsfolk were warm but wary. They spoke in hushed tones of the old asylum on the hill and the strange occurrences that often befell those who lived too close to its crumbling gates. But all of this was mere folklore to 16-year-old Clara, who had grown up listening to her grandmother's tales by the fireplace, half believing, half skeptical. When Clara began to experience episodes that clouded her mind, fragments of reality slipping away like water through her fingers, she chalked it up to stress from school and the lingering pressures of her social life. It wasn't long, though, before the fleeting moments of forgetfulness haunted her. She would misplace items, forget the names of friends, even struggle to recall her own plans from one moment to the next. With concern furrowing her brow, Clara confided in her best friend, Sam. "Maybe you should see someone," he suggested after she had forgotten their plans for the third time that week. "There's nothing wrong with getting help." "No way. It's just stress, tied up in knots from studying," she insisted, though she could feel the unease gnawing at her heart. As time slipped away, her reality began to blur. Shadows grew longer, whispers lingered in corners that she swore weren't there, and the feeling of being watched pulsed around her like a symphony of dread. One night, Clara had a vivid nightmare that felt too real. She stood in her grandmother's living room, the air thick with dust motes and silence. Suddenly, she was no longer alone. A figure, cloaked in darkness, emerged from the shadows, its face indistinguishable yet strikingly familiar. It stepped closer, echoing her grandmother's voice, but its words were twisted, filled with caution and dread. "They're coming for you, Clara. They hate the light." Startled awake, she was drenched in cold sweat. The dream left her shaken, as she felt a lurking fear that something terrible was indeed drawing closer. The next day, as Clara walked into school, she noticed people whispering and sharing sidelong glances. She felt a chill race up her spine, and the sensation that someone, or something, was watching intensified. Days turned into weeks, with Clara's episodes becoming more frequent. Ghostly whispers followed her through the halls, words she could almost comprehend but never fully grasped. At dinner, her parents frowned with concern. "You've been distant, Clara. Is anything wrong?" She could see their concern was sincere, but the more they pressed her, the more she drew into herself. One fateful afternoon, Clara trudged home after school feeling an electric tension in the air. She glanced around, aware of shadows flickering at the edge of her vision. With each step, the pressure built, wrapping tight around her like a noose. She whispered to herself, attempting to banish the looming darkness. As she approached the old asylum, curiosity unfurled inside her chest, an inexplicable need to delve into the darkness that captivated her town. The heavy iron gate creaked open as if inviting her in. The air felt thick, heavy with decades of despair. The walls were painted with peeling pastels of memories long lost, and the scent of mold clung to the air. Clara wandered deeper, unaware of the danger lurking in the shadows. In the asylum's common room, Clara felt an icy grip on her heart. Faces of the past shimmered in the crumbling wallpaper, faint glimpses of residents long gone, but their eyes were full of sorrow and warning. Suddenly, she could hear her own thoughts echoing back at her, twisted and mocking. They were angry, clawing to escape, threatening to tear her apart. "You don't belong here," they screamed, reverberating through the ruined hallways. Clara stumbled, terror spiraling within her. The whispers intensified, filling her mind with chaotic echoes of her own fears, her insecurities, her worst memories, and the looming dread of losing herself to the shadows. She clutched her head, hoping to drown out the sound, to keep herself anchored to the blissful reality she once took for granted. But it was no use. The shadows crept closer, pulling her into a vortex of despair. "Who are you?" she cried out, feeling the edges of her consciousness fray. "What do you want from me?" A flash of light, and there was her grandmother, standing amongst the shadows, but her eyes were hollow, void of warmth. A single tear slipped down her grandmother's cheek. "We want you to remember, Clara. Don't let them take you." Suddenly, a flood of memories surged within Clara. The laughter, the love, the warmth of her grandmother's embrace. But underneath it all was a growing realization that the shadows were not just figments of her imagination. They mirrored her fears, her guilt, her looming knowledge of an inherited mental struggle. Clara ran. Desperation fueled her, propelling her back through the asylum's corridors until she burst through the iron gate into the fading light outside. She gasped for air, the weight of shadows lifting from her soul. However, Clara learned that the shadows wouldn't disappear, they would follow her. The whispers, the glimpses of figures in the corner of her eye, they would become her companions, reminders of what she fought against. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, Clara understood that the real horror wasn't in the shadows of the asylum, but the ones that lingered within her, eager to consume her if she let them. With the realization, she turned toward the town, embracing all the light she could gather, determined not to let the whispers define her fate.